My name is Michael Anderson, and my life took an unexpected turn when I was diagnosed with a severe liver infection. For as long as I can remember, I had prided myself on being a healthy, hard-working man. At 47, I had built a stable career and a comfortable life with my wife, Jenny. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I believed we were solid. One ordinary afternoon, I was in the middle of a presentation at the office when everything went black. The next thing I remember was waking up in a hospital bed, disoriented and frightened. My colleague Tom, who was also my closest friend and boss, was there looking worried. The doctors had run a series of tests, and their faces grew more serious with each result. I could see the concern in their eyes before they even said a word. When the doctor finally spoke, he explained that I had a severe liver infection. It was so advanced that if left untreated, it could become terminal. Hearing those words felt like a punch to the gut. I'd always been the strong one, the provider, and now I was faced with a battle for my life. In that moment, all I could think about was Jenny. She was away on a business trip, and I did not want to worry her until she returned. I needed to see her face, to hold her hand, and feel her support when I broke the news. So, I decided to keep my diagnosis a secret until she came back home. Those days of waiting were torture. Every minute felt like an eternity. I struggled to maintain my composure at work, pretending everything was fine while my mind was in turmoil. At night, I lay awake imagining how I would tell Jenny, hoping she would be my rock through this ordeal. When Jenny finally returned, I could not wait any longer. As soon as she walked through the door, I pulled her aside and told her everything. I expected tears, worry, and a vow to fight this together. Instead, her reaction was a mixture of shock and what I could only describe as disappointment. She seemed more concerned about the inconvenience this illness would bring to our lives than the fact that my life was at risk. That was the moment I realized things were going to be much harder than I had anticipated. Not only was I facing a serious health crisis, but the emotional support I had counted on was nowhere to be found. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of the storm that was about to hit my life. When Jenny walked through the door that evening, I felt a glimmer of hope. Seeing her familiar face brought a brief sense of comfort, a stark contrast to the turmoil I had been living with. I had rehearsed my words countless times in my mind, but when the moment came, they felt heavy and cumbersome. "Jenny, we need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She looked at me, her eyes questioning, but not yet alarmed. We sat down in the living room, the room where we had shared so many moments of our life together. It felt surreal to be delivering such devastating news in such a familiar setting. I took a deep breath and began. "A few days ago, I fainted at the office. They took me to the hospital and ran some tests. The doctors found a severe infection in my liver. It's serious, Jenny. They said it could become terminal if we don't treat it aggressively." I watched her face as I spoke, hoping to see empathy, concern, or at least some form of emotional response. Instead, Jenny's expression remained disturbingly neutral. She processed the information quietly, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "So, what does this mean? How will this affect our lives?" she finally asked. Her tone was pragmatic, almost businesslike. It was as if she was calculating the impact rather than reacting to the gravity of the situation. "It means I'll need treatment, possibly surgery, and a lot of rest. I might not be able to work as much for a while," I explained, feeling the weight of her detachment pressing down on me. Jenny sighed and leaned back in her chair. "This is really going to complicate things," she said. "I mean, what about our plans? The finances? We can't afford to have you out of work for too long." I felt a pang of hurt and disbelief. Here I was, bearing my soul and my fears, and all she seemed to care about was the disruption to our routine. "Jenny, I need your support. This is about my life," I said, my voice breaking slightly. She looked at me, her eyes cold. "I understand, Michael, but you have to see it from my perspective too. This is going to be hard on both of us." Her words felt like a slap in the face. I had expected her to be my anchor, but instead, she was drifting away, leaving me to face this storm alone. Over the next few days, her distance grew more apparent. She would spend hours away from home, and when she was around, there was a palpable tension between us. The intimacy we once shared seemed to vanish overnight. When I reached out to her, she pulled away, citing stress and exhaustion. I tried to understand, to be patient, but the emotional chasm between us only widened. I felt more alone than ever, battling not only a life-threatening illness, but also the disintegration of my marriage. It became clear that Jenny was more burdened by the inconvenience of my illness than the prospect of losing me. Her lack of support cut deeper than any medical diagnosis ever could. I was facing the fight of my life, and the one person I had counted on was already slipping through my fingers. Despite Jenny's cold response, I knew I had to press on. My health was deteriorating, and the doctor's words echoed in my mind constantly. Rest is crucial for your recovery. But rest seemed like a luxury I could not afford. I was not just fighting for my life, I was fighting to keep my family afloat financially. I worked for Tom, my best friend since college. We had built his company together from the ground up, and I felt a deep sense of responsibility towards its success. The thought of stepping away, even temporarily, felt like abandoning a part of myself. So, despite the doctor's stern warnings, I continued to go to the office every day. Each morning, I would drag myself out of bed, pushing through the fatigue and the pain. I would put on a brave face and immerse myself in work, trying to ignore the gnawing fear in the back of my mind. The workload was intense, but it was also a distraction from my personal turmoil. It was easier to focus on deadlines and meetings than to dwell on my precarious health or Jenny's growing distance. Tom noticed my struggle. One day, he called me into his office. "Michael, you look like you're about to collapse," he said, genuine concern etched on his face. "You need to take care of yourself. The company can manage without you for a while." "I can't just leave, Tom," I replied, my voice tinged with frustration. "I need to keep working. We need the money, and I can't let everyone down." Tom leaned forward, his expression serious yet compassionate. "Listen, Michael, your health is more important than any job. You need to take a break, and I mean it. Take a few months off with pay. Focus on getting better." His words were both a relief and a new source of anxiety. I knew he was right, but I also knew how Jenny would react when I told her about Tom's offer. That evening, her reaction was exactly as I feared. "You're taking a paid leave?" she said, her voice laced with disbelief. "How is that going to help us in the long run? What if the company decides to replace you?" "They won't replace me, Jenny. Tom is giving me time to recover because he knows it's what I need," I explained, trying to keep my voice calm. She shook her head, her face a mask of frustration. "You should have thought about this more carefully, Michael. We can't afford any more disruptions." Her words stung. It was clear that her primary concern was the potential financial instability, not my health or well-being. Despite my exhaustion, I felt a wave of determination. If Jenny could not be my support, I would have to find the strength within myself. The next day, I took Tom's advice and started my leave. It was strange not going to the office, but I tried to see it as an opportunity to focus on my recovery. I spent my days resting, following the doctor's orders, and trying to rebuild my strength. But the home environment remained tense. Jenny's coldness was a constant reminder of how alone I was in this battle. She spent more and more time away, and when she was home, she was distant, almost as if my illness was an inconvenience she could not wait to escape from. The emotional toll was immense, but I clung to the small victories. My health started to improve slowly, and I found solace in the support of friends like Tom. Each day was a new challenge, but I was determined to overcome it, even if it meant facing it alone. As my health gradually improved, the cracks in my marriage became impossible to ignore. Jenny's coldness and detachment were no longer just moments of tension. They had become the defining features of our relationship. She spent more time out of the house, often coming home late without explanation. The distance between us grew, and I felt more like a stranger in my own home. One evening, I decided to confront her. "Jenny, we need to talk," I said as she walked in. She looked at me, her eyes tired and distant. "About what, Michael?" she replied, her voice devoid of warmth. "About us. About what's happening to us. You seem so distant, and I'm trying to understand why." She sighed, running her fingers through her hair. "Michael, this illness of yours has put a lot of stress on me. It's not easy, you know. I understand that it's hard, but I need you, Jenny. I need your support. It feels like you're not even here anymore." She looked at me, and for a moment I thought I saw a flicker of guilt, but it quickly vanished. I don't know what you expect from me. This situation is difficult for both of us. Her words stung, but I pushed on. Is there someone else, Jenny? Are you seeing someone else? Her eyes widened, and for a moment she looked genuinely shocked, but then her expression hardened. She replied, Michael, that's absurd. How could you even think that? I don't know what to think anymore, I said, my voice breaking. All I know is that you're not here when I need you the most. The conversation ended with no resolution, and the tension in our home grew thicker. Then, one evening, I came across a series of text messages on her phone. They were from a man named Mark, and it was clear from the content that they were more than just friends. My heart sank as I read the affectionate exchanges, the plans to meet, and the expressions of love. When I confronted Jenny with the evidence, she did not deny it. Instead, she looked relieved, as if a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. Yes, Michael, I've been seeing Mark, and I think it's time we both face the truth. This marriage isn't working anymore. Her words felt like a dagger to my heart. Despite everything, a part of me had still hoped that we could find our way back to each other. But here she was, admitting to an affair and asking for a way out. So what do you want? I asked, my voice hollow. I want a divorce, she said simply. I think it's the best thing for both of us. The next few days were a blur of legal proceedings and painful conversations. I felt like I was losing everything, my health, my marriage, my sense of stability. It was during this time that Tom suggested I remove Jenny as the beneficiary of my assets, including my share in the company. You need to protect yourself, Michael, he said. She's made her choices, and you need to think about your future. With a heavy heart, I took his advice. The realization that Jenny was more concerned about money than about me became even clearer when she reacted coldly to the news. Fine, she said. Do whatever you need to do. As our marriage unraveled, Jenny's absences became more frequent. She would leave for hours, sometimes not returning until late at night. Eventually, she moved out, leaving me alone in a house that now felt empty and hollow. One day, as I was packing up some of her things, I received a call from a woman named Susan. She introduced herself as Mark's wife. I think we need to talk, she said. There's something you need to know about Jenny and Mark. We met at a nearby coffee shop, and Susan revealed that Jenny and Mark had been having an affair for over 2 years. She was determined to save her marriage and wanted Jenny out of their lives. Hearing the full extent of Jenny's betrayal was devastating, but it also brought a strange sense of closure. Confronting Jenny with this new information was a turning point. She did not deny it. Instead, she confessed everything. Yes, Michael, I've been with Mark for a long time. I'm sorry it had to come out this way, but this is the reality. As painful as it was, her confession brought a sense of relief. I finally knew the full truth, and it gave me the strength to move forward. I blocked Jenny on all platforms, like cutting off all communication, and began to focus on my recovery and my work. The storm had finally passed, and though the damage was severe, I was still standing. It was time to rebuild, to start anew, and to leave the past behind. After everything came crashing down, I knew I needed a fresh start. The house Jenny and I had shared was filled with too many painful memories, so I decided to move. Tom offered me an apartment in the same building as our office. It was small but cozy, and the proximity to work was a welcome convenience. More importantly, it was a place where I could start anew without the lingering presence of my failed marriage. Moving in was a bittersweet experience. On one hand, it marked the end of a chapter filled with betrayal and heartbreak. On the other, it was the beginning of a new life where I could focus on my recovery and my work without the constant stress and disappointment that Jenny had brought into my life. I threw myself into redecorating the apartment. Choosing the colors, the furniture, and the decor allowed me to express myself in ways I hadn't in years. It became a sanctuary, a place where I could find peace and heal. Every piece of furniture, every photo on the wall was a step towards reclaiming my life. As my health improved, I found that the change in environment did wonders for my spirit. Without Jenny's coldness hanging over me, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I started to enjoy the small things again. A morning coffee by the window, the sound of rain against the glass, the quiet of the evening spent reading or listening to music. It was a stark contrast to the chaos and emotional turmoil of the past months. One evening, while I was unpacking the last of my boxes, I received a call from Susan. She wanted to update me on her situation with Mark. Despite everything, she was determined to save her marriage and had given Mark an ultimatum: end things with Jenny or lose his family. Hearing her resolve was inspiring. It reminded me that even in the darkest times, there was always a path forward if you have the courage to take it. The next day, Susan and I met for coffee. She shared that Mark had chosen to stay with her and their children, cutting all ties with Jenny. It was a relief to know that Jenny's influence was finally out of their lives. Susan's determination to fight for her family gave me hope. If she could rebuild her life, so could I. With Jenny out of the picture, I was able to focus entirely on my recovery and my work. The support from Tom and my colleagues was unwavering. They stepped up to help with my workload, allowing me the time I needed to regain my strength. I began to feel more like myself again, more in control of my life and my future. Blocking Jenny from all forms of communication was a crucial step. It was not just about cutting off contact, it was about claiming my peace of mind. I needed to distance myself from the negativity and focus on the positive aspects of my life. And so I did. Life in the apartment became a routine of work, rest, and small pleasures. I found joy in cooking meals for myself, taking walks in the nearby park, and reconnecting with old friends. Each day was a step towards healing, both physically and emotionally. Though friends and family encouraged me to start dating again, I was cautious. The scars from my marriage were still fresh, and I was not ready to open myself up to that kind of vulnerability again. Instead, I focused on building a life that made me happy, one that was free from the shadows of the past. Purchasing a small apartment was a significant milestone. It was a space that was entirely mine, free from the memories of Jenny. I decorated it to reflect my taste and personality, making it a true home. It symbolized my new beginning, a place where I could build a future on my own terms. As the months passed, my health stabilized. The regular checkups showed positive progress, and I felt stronger every day. My work thrived, and Tom and I even began discussing new projects and expansions. Life was moving forward, and so was I. The pain of the past had not disappeared, but it no longer controlled me. I had faced the storm, weathered it, and come out the other side. Now it was time to embrace the future, to live for myself, and to build a life that brought me joy and fulfillment. With my health improving and the turmoil of my marriage behind me, I started to focus on building a life that brought me joy and peace. The small apartment I purchased became my sanctuary. I filled it with things that made me happy: art, books, and comfortable furniture. Every piece was chosen with care, reflecting my newfound sense of self. Though I was content in my solitude, friends and family often encouraged me to start dating again. They wanted to see me happy and loved, but I was hesitant. The wounds from my relationship with Jenny were still fresh, and I was wary of opening myself up to potential heartbreak again. Instead, I poured my energy into my work and my hobbies. One of the most rewarding aspects of my new life was reconnecting with old friends. People who had been pushed to the periphery during my marriage with Jenny now became a source of support and joy. We would meet for dinner, go for hikes, or simply spend an evening chatting over coffee. These moments reminded me of the importance of genuine connections and the value of true friendship. As my health stabilized, I started to explore new interests. I took up painting, something I had always wanted to try but never had the time for. The act of putting brush to canvas was therapeutic, allowing me to express emotions that words could not capture. I also joined a local book club where I met people who shared my love for literature. These activities filled my days with purpose and creativity, helping me to rebuild my sense of identity. Work continued to be a significant part of my life, but it no longer felt like a burden. Tom and I embarked on new projects, and the company thrived. I found fulfillment in my professional achievements, knowing that I was contributing to something meaningful. The support from my colleagues, especially Tom, was unwavering, and it felt good to be part of a team that valued my well-being. One evening, while attending a gallery opening with friends, I met Sarah. She was an art curator, intelligent, kind, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. We talked for hours that night, sharing stories and laughing in a way I had not done in years. It was refreshing to meet someone who saw me for who I was, without the baggage of my past. Despite my initial reservations, I allowed myself to get to know Sarah better. We took things slow, enjoying each other's company without rushing into anything serious. She understood my hesitations and respected my need for space. Her presence in my life was like a gentle breeze, bringing with it a sense of calm and possibility. As the months passed, Sarah and I grew closer. She introduced me to new experiences, and I did the same for her. We traveled, explored new hobbies, and supported each other's dreams. Our relationship was built on mutual respect and understanding, a stark contrast to what I had experienced with Jenny. One day, while walking through the park hand in hand, Sarah turned to me and said, "You know, Michael, I've never met anyone quite like you. Your resilience and strength are truly inspiring." Her words touched me deeply, reaffirming my belief that I had finally found someone who appreciated me for who I was. As my relationship with Sarah blossomed, I realized that I had finally moved beyond the pain of my past. I had faced my darkest moments and emerged stronger. My health was stable, my work was fulfilling, and my personal life was filled with love and happiness. Looking back, I saw that the journey had not been easy, but it had been worth it. I had learned the importance of self-care, the value of true friendship, and the power of resilience. My life was not perfect, but it was mine, and I was determined to live it to the fullest. In the end, I found solace in the simple joys of everyday life. Whether it was a quiet evening at home, a lively discussion at the book club, or a spontaneous adventure with Sarah, each moment was a testament to my journey and the new life I had built. I had faced the storm and come out the other side, ready to embrace whatever the future held.